Greetings, this is Artie from Artifact Electronics. In this episode we're going to do something new, and that is we're going to do an unboxing and then a checkout of the stuff that's in the box. So I won an auction from Goodwill with some electronic equipment. The auction, I think I won the auction for $16 and shipping was like almost $12. But this is my first order there, and it just arrived today. So let's have a look and see what's inside. Note how I've meticulously obscured my contact information, which is kind of the reverse that you'll see in other people's videos. They'll obscure the sender's information to protect their privacy. But in this case, I don't really need to protect the sender's privacy, but rather my own. And the main reason for that is that some of my dear viewers have hinted at, I have such and such equipment, and wouldn't it be great if I sent it to you and you repaired it on camera? That is not something I want to do just now, so I am going to remain anonymous as far as where exactly you can find me. But why on Goodwill? So Goodwill it's an auction site, kind of like eBay. The main difference being that on eBay, everybody and their brother can sell whatever they want. On the Goodwill sites, only Goodwill stores are allowed to sell items. And lately, I guess the store managers, or not the buyers, but the acquirers, I should say, have decided that there's a lot of stuff they shouldn't put in the store for cheap, and they can get a lot more money auctioning it. So that's what they do, and which is kind of bad for the store itself, because a lot of the good stuff is gone out of the store and ends up on the auction site. But at least there is one place where you can go and look at everything and maybe score a good deal. And we'll find out if I, in fact, did score a good deal or not. Now, Goodwill, of course, for me has a very special meaning. For some of you who've watched previous videos, starting with episode number 38, I chronicled one of my the best find in a thrift store, which was an Atari Asteroids cocktail game that I bought for $32. And I guess I was there at the right place at the right time, but once that happened, I'll probably never get a deal like that again from Goodwill, but I might as well try to continue the lucky streak. So let's see what's in there. I'm going to have to use something that's probably going to be classified as a controlled item soon, because sadly this was used as an effective weapon in the 9/11 attacks, but it is a box cutter, so I'm just going to have to use it. And you see some peanuts, packing material, and some advertisements here. I'm gonna have to save that. And some bubble wrap items. Let's not spill everything all over the ground, and pick them out in no particular order. So, what we have here first, I was going to do the whole bit of taking things out and cutting them open, but it turned out to be messy because things were packed a little bit too well, or bubble wrapped too well. So I'm just going to show you what was in there with the bubble wrap already cut open. So number one is a Sega Dreamcast console, which is discolored. You can see that looking at the back. It's supposed to be gray like this. I don't know how well it shows up, but it's kind of turned brown It's pretty dirty, and well, the disc door opens up, so we're going to have to plug this guy in and see if it does anything. Next, we have a Sega Genesis, the original model. Actually, this is not version 1, but version 1.5. And the way you can tell is version 1 had a DB9 connector here that allowed you to hook it up to what Sega called the MegaNet. But that was never released in the US, and I guess they saved some money by leaving it out in Rev 1.5. So here's the Genesis. And that's not all. What we also got is a Genesis Rev 2. This one's really dirty, but again, because it's black, at least we can't, it hasn't turned brown or anything. And like the Genesis before this, it hasn't been opened, and the expansion connectors are still in place, and that's a good thing. So here's what we got, and it's time to take this stuff to the bench and see what it does. So here's the first candidate, and it's probably going to be the easiest, because remember, these this whole package came with no cables or hookups or anything of that sort, but I do have all the cables required for this: power supply, an AV cable, and a controller over here. So first let's see, well, if it powers up in eBay parlance, which means does the power light come on? And yes, it does. And I saw a flash on the monitor, so something happened in there. So in order to go further, let's put in a cartridge, which also comes out of my collection, and we turn it on, and it actually does work. So it looks like this thing is in full working condition, and with a little bit of cleaning it should be good. Yeah, the button assignment in these is not very consistent from game to game, but okay, so you got to select what? Let the computer play the computer. And there you go. So the buttons work, and the CPU works. There's a Motorola 68K in here, but well, we can see that the number 1 is a success, and it works, and after a little bit of cleanup, will get stored in the collection to be in a box for the rest of his life. On to the next one. Just for the sake of completeness, here's what the Rev 1.0 looks like with the DB9 connector over here. This is one I had, and this is the one we currently looked at, and it just doesn't have a cutout here. And what MegaNet was an initial attempt at putting these things online, and they sold a modem that just went into the DB9, simple serial connection, but it probably was a little bit early for its time. It never got released in America, and subsequently they dropped the DB9 connector. There are also supposed to be some sound differences, and supposedly the original ones, Rev 1.0s, have better sound than the Rev 1.5s, but I don't know. I'm going to have to A/B them to find that out. But on to the next machine. Here's the Rev 2. This one gets a bit complicated because well, I made a power cable, a power adapter for it, because even though it has a regular barrel connector, well, something that looks like a regular barrel connector, the dimensions are kind of weird. So I I just found a power brick with the proper voltage and attached the proper connector I got from another wall wart onto it. It has an S-video-like connector where the AV signals are coming out from, and as I said, I don't have the connector, so I just stuck ends of resistors in there and clipped onto, let's see, video and audio. And what I need now is a convenient point to click on ground. So let's put in the power. And I removed the cover from the side here, and I'm going to clip on to the RF shield, but it doesn't want to cooperate. As you can see, it keeps coming off. There you go, I think. So, with everything in place, cartridge is inserted, controller is inserted, and it comes up. Looks just like the other one. It's the same cartridge. The hardware is the same inside. It's just been minimized a bit and made smaller. But let's see. Sounds like, I don't think there's any audio coming out of this right now. So let's see why. There is audio, but it's really low level. Oh, that is because the audio connection was shorting to ground. Nope, it's still unhappy with the audio. You can see the video is good, but it wasn't plugged in right. So, same exciting music, same exciting title screen on this. This one is also in full working condition. Does need a little bit of cleanup, but so far 2 out of 3 working out of the box. Obviously I have to go out and get myself a proper AV cable for this, but they're a few bucks on eBay. So that's what we'll get into. I'm cleaning it up, getting an AV cable, and then this one's done. I don't even have to take it apart. So here's number 3, the Dreamcast. And this one's going to be a bitch to test because I don't have an AV cable for this either. And this one isn't going to be as easy to connect to as it was on the Genesis Rev 2. But let's do the eBay power-up test first. And it lights up, the fan running, and the drive is trying to do something. But obviously no video. And the reason for that is, of course, that I don't have a cable, but let's see if I can show you this. It's going to be a little bit difficult, but I might be able to get that in the picture. The connector is below the power plug and to the left. And You can't really see it. But it's the connector over here with a row of contacts underneath, spaced very closely to each other. And the jury rigging that is going to be a bit difficult. So let me think about that, and I'll get back to you with a solution. So the ground connection wasn't too bad because there are two larger pins connecting to the shell of the connector. I was able to stick that in here. Now the video was a little bit more difficult. The composite video is here. So what I kind of did was I jammed the resistor lead against it, and the Q-tip seemed to give me just enough pressure to make a good connection there. So let's see if that worked. So we are off to test number 2. Let's get the glare out of this. Well, let me turn off the light here. And there you go. This one boots up too. But now, of course, it needs controller input. I think I have some controllers, but let me see if I can dig those out. So I dug out my controller here, and I have a single Dreamcast game. Now, I don't think I've ever tested this myself. It doesn't look too bad on the back, but I don't know, it's untested. So let's see what this does. Well, I hear some disk activity. It's trying. But it keeps trying the disk. It's not getting anywhere. Now, I played around with this a little bit, and because of the wonky AV connection, it's kind of hard to move the device around, but I managed to try a few different orientations, and at one point it actually got to the title screen of the disc, which implies to me that the laser is going bad on it, the laser diode. So there's one thing we can do to see if we can fix that. So let's go ahead and take this guy apart and see if we can bring him back to life. So I took off the top. I don't recall ever having taken apart a Dreamcast, so this might be a first for me. Anyway, the first thing I looked at, just a visual inspection. Here's the power supply. The caps all look good, no bulged tops, no leaking. The laser assembly here, and the logic is contained in this box over here, I think. So let's check some voltages, and so first the DC voltages. Let's see, they are actually labeled. Ground is over here. We then have 3.3, that's good. 5. Hello. 5 is good. And finally 12. That's also good. So those are all good. Let us now check the ripple voltage. And on the 3.3 line we have, that's good. On the 5-volt line is also good. And on the 12-volt line we have 10. That's also good. So the voltages are good. So what we're going to do now is do a hack on the laser. And I'll show you the extremely complicated theory behind it all. So here's a simplified diagram of what I think where the problem lies. And the reason I'm guessing on this is a common problem with PlayStation 2s also. And so what happens is this is the laser diode over here, which is factory adjusted to work just right when it's brand new. And I think they use a test disc with it and basically watch waveforms on a scope until they get a good wave readout. I don't know exactly what it is they use, but that's how you do it. I don't think they actually put a voltmeter across it, but rather they adjust it, making sure that the signal is well formed and at its peak in the factory. Now what happens is the laser diode degrades after a while, just like a regular diode, and its brightness decreases. So if its brightness decreases, the receiver for this can't read the signals properly anymore that get reflected, and thus the disc read fails. So what gets done on a PS2 is, I mean, the diode is degraded or damaged, if you rather think of it that way, but a temporary and immediate fix is, if a diode gets dim, what do? You give it more current. And by decreasing the resistance, I mean, the voltage across the diode remains somewhat constant because that's the diode forward voltage. So if we decrease the resistance, then it'll get more current and it'll get brighter. Now, you have to be really careful about this, because I've seen some repair attempts where people have gone to this pot and basically said, well, it's too weak, let's just turn it down all the way. Well, if you turn this pot down all the way, essentially shorting it, you are going to get, I mean, there is nothing limiting the current anymore, and your diode will be gone almost immediately. So what you need to do is find this pot, find the directions you need to turn it in, and gently adjust it. And while testing a DVD, until it starts reading the DVD, and you haven't gotten too awfully close to the shorting point on this. The point is if you decrease this and you get no response, it doesn't work, then the diode is destroyed anyway, and there's not much more damage you can do, and you need to change the laser assembly. But if you carefully go in and reduce the resistance on this pot, you may just get enough brightness out of this LED to make the DVD drive work again. So that's what we're going to try to do now on the Dreamcast. I pulled out the laser assembly, the drive assembly actually, and I mean, the only other thing that could be wrong is that the mechanism gets extremely dirty, or the drive motor doesn't work. But I mean, this thing doesn't have a belt to wear out, it's direct drive. So, well, actually, this is the stepper motor. No, this is the stepper motor over here. This drives the hub. And here's the laser assembly. And this is where the pot is. And the pot was adjusted to a point where this edge over here was pointing straight up at the red mark. And there was actually stuff on it to prevent it from turning. I made some... I did some measurements, some continuity measurements to determine which way to turn this pot so it would decrease the resistance. and that yielded that counterclockwise movement on this decreases the resistance. And then I basically used the standard approach I use with the PlayStation 2, and that is, if it doesn't work, go in there and turn this pot counterclockwise about 1/10 turn. Put it together, test the DVD, and rinse and repeat until either the DVD works or you're getting really close to the left end of travel on the pot. Because when you're near the left end of travel, you're just about shorting the resistor, and for all intents and purposes, the diode's gone at that point. Now what I had to do was I had to repeat the 1/10 turn 3 times. I mean, I did it once or twice, and I got the laser to work when I set the whole device on its side. It would start reading, but when I was sitting flat on the desk, it wouldn't work. So I did a third 1/10 turn on it, and it started to work. So let's see if that is still the case. So here we are, back into place. So let's put in a DVD. We have to manually hold the DVD detect switch down, and away we go. Well, it looks like it detected the disc. The head's moving. And let's see if it boots into the game. It is showing stuff on the display here, on the controller display. So the game is running. So let's give it a few more minutes and see if it craps out on us or not. Of course, showing the respective logos of everybody who was ever involved with this product, and you can't button through that. Well, load completed normally, and now we see all that good HD video. Boom. Boom again. So it looks like it's working. Now, of course, there's no sound, but that's because I have to connect the audio wire in the same awkward way that I've put in the video wire. So let's put things back together and see if I can get the audio running on it too. Alright, I kind of got the sound wire in place. So let's see if we can at least demonstrate video and sound together. That beep came from the controller. Well, so let's see if we can hear the beautiful music in the game. And that'll bring us to the end. And watching these interesting logos again. Play some music. You would think that they play some music during the loading. Oh, there you go. Interesting artifacting on that one part of the video, but looks like somebody didn't encode it right, but it slipped through final approval. Oh, there again. Whenever the screen gets, the visible image gets kind of smaller, It seems to do that. But hey, that's not our concern here. The sound works. There, it's doing it again. Well, it's a fully functional Sega Dreamcast. Let's wrap up. Alright, so here's the bounty. 3 vintage Sega systems. Well, these 2 are vintage. This one's kind of vintage. It's the last video game console Sega built. And it was $28 for the package shipped, which equates to about $9 and change for each of the consoles. Not a screaming deal, but a pretty good deal because I can use all of these. The repair on the Sega, of course, had to be done, but it was one of those repairs where I kind of guessed what it was, and for once my guess was right, so that didn't take very long. So it's a nice collection all in all. I still have to get AV cables for both this guy and this guy, but I can get those rather inexpensively. And for those of you wondering what this guy is, it's an RCA LCD television, sold through Radio Shack. And I picked this thing up for $3 or $4, and it didn't need any work other than just the converter plugs to be able to plug in composite video. And it has stereo audio inputs too. So there you have it. Thank you so much for your support. I hope you enjoyed this. And make sure to spam the like and the subscribe buttons. And let me know in the comments what you think in detail. And, you know, I wish I could do videos at a higher frequency than this, but it's becoming more difficult for me to find stuff that I could repair and that I would find interesting enough to repair for this channel. But if you have any solutions or suggestions or any wild ideas about what you would like to see here, let me know in the comments below. We'll see you later.